Backyard Soccer is a very unique and quirky style soccer game that was released for the PlayStation in 2001. It was released in other regions and even on other platforms under the name of Junior Sports Football or Soccer, and it also got a release on Windows PC. And this is a very different type of soccer game compared to your more mainstream football titles that were available on the PlayStation at the time, as this was more arcade focused and utilised more cartoony style graphics, as the idea behind it was kids playing in their backyards or playing in different environments and just playing football like say on the street and so forth. So it had more of a cartoony aesthetic to it, which was considered to be quite fun. The game itself did get decent enough reviews, but the one major issue that the game had was its loading times and very clunky controls, especially on the PC version. But even with regards to the console versions, the controls hadn't really been updated all that much, and that was the major gripe, because sometimes it was hard and it was difficult to figure out what to do, because even when you had the ball you could lose it very easily. Even when you're moving along with the ball, the player could move away from it, and then you had to keep running after the ball again or trying to find your ground again in order to control the ball again. One of the most notable aspects that the game was praised for, however, was the visuals with the graphics. Even though it used more of a cartoony style nature, the visuals definitely suited the style that the game was going to go for. It was just the controls and even somewhat the clunky AI at times could hamper the experience, and also the speed of the game as well. Sometimes it could feel a little bit on the sluggish side, but again, it's a different type of football game and it's not going to compare or really be comparable to the more mainstream soccer games, as it tries a different approach from your typical football game seen on the PlayStation, and it tries to appeal to a different aesthetic and even a different type of player, as it is more youth focused. But it does have access to a number of different modes and tournaments that you can play in. The game gives you access to different modes with different types of divisions that you can play throughout different seasons and different cups and tournaments to get involved with. But one of the cool aspects of this game is the power-ups feature that you can utilise to gain an advantage in the game. So there's different attributes where the ball can disappear and actually go underground and pop up at random points, or the football itself can turn into a giant bowling ball which will literally knock all the players that get in its way completely out of the way, and it will go straight into the goal if that's your case. I managed to do it myself when I was playing this game to record this video. It just happens kind of randomly. There's no really way of knowing of where or when it's going to happen. I wasn't really able to figure out how to initiate a lot of these tricks a lot of times, for it just happened randomly, so you just had to enjoy it while it was there as such. Like, in terms of soccer games, it's not going to win any awards for realism, because again, it's a very, very different type of title in all respects to it. But what it does do quite well, even though regardless of its flaws, as it can be somewhat a little bit clunky and sluggish, but it does play quite well and you will have a bit of fun with it, and it would be a good game to play with your mates, especially with the likes of the use of the power-ups and so forth. So it adds a bit more of a fun dynamic to your experience with playing soccer. But it's cool to see developers at that time working with different ideas, using what was already considered to be working but adding a completely different spin or take on the content itself. So that was pretty cool. Even though it may not have maybe been executed as well as it could have been, it still holds its own in terms of what it represents. So that in itself is quite cool. And again, a lot of these games did help to pave the way for a lot of other quirkier style games that would later be seen on the PS2 and beyond, especially more so on the PS2, because even while the PS1 had a lot of experimental titles, it was even more prevalent on the PS2. The PS2 was literally home to experimentation with these type of games, so you would get to see a lot more of that for sure. So if you're looking for something that's a wee bit fun and that moves away from the seriousness of your typical soccer game, Backyard Soccer might be worth checking out in all respects. And I would love to know your thoughts on this game if you have played it yourself, and if so, what do you think of it? Do you enjoy soccer games, but do you even enjoy these more unusual, quirkier style of games? Be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated of future videos. And in the meantime, if you want to see more content around other types of soccer games also released on the PlayStation, you can check out the playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.